Hey guys, the Mention Master Studios here, how y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, when it comes to Ninjago, we have gotten many villains over the events of the show, and a lot of them have done some pretty bad and terrible things. And it kinda got me thinking a bit. Who was the worst of the worst out of all the Ninjago villains? Who is Ninjago's most evil and irredeemable villain we have ever gotten? That is what I'm going to be bringing to you guys in today's video. Now, this is obviously just my own opinion. Yours can be different, and that is totally fine. Feel free to leave your personal opinions down below, and let's get into the whole situation. Now, for starters, before we can actually get into the villains, let's start by eliminating some villains so we can make this list easier to make, actually. For starters, I'm going to be eliminating the Omega, the Overlord, Garmadon, and the Ice Emperor. The reason why I'm eliminating these four villains is because, while yes, all these guys were evil, and the case of some of them, they were especially evil, mainly the Overlord and the Ice Emperor. They were evil, but it wasn't by choice. They never chose to go down these paths of evil. In the case of the Overlord and the Omega, it was just destiny that led them to be this way, and in the case of Garmadon, he was obviously bitten by the Great Devourer, and when it came to the Ice Emperor, he was actually Zane, who was just manipulated by Vex and the Scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu, as well as also Zane losing his memories. So again, I don't think that these guys should be put in the running for most evil villain, because again, they never chose to be like this. All the villains who I am going to be talking about, they did choose to be the way they did. I'm also going to be eliminating a couple of generals. Mainly, I'm going to be eliminating Samukai, Cryptor, and Kozu, mainly because when it comes to these guys, well, they're just generals. They really aren't all that evil in comparison to, like, the people who they work for. Like, Samukai, maybe, and even then, that's a bit of a stretch. I am going to be putting, though, Klaus and Vex in the chance for most evil villain when it comes to us actually talking about the villains, mainly because they did more evil stuff, and spoiler alert, Vex in particular. Finally, I'm going to be eliminating any villain who either A, had some kind of redemption story, or B, were never actually a villain. And this only applies to Moro when it comes to the redemption story thing, and then that also leaves us with Yang, Unagami, and Chief Mamatus, because again, all these guys were never actually bad guys. Like, it was just some kind of misunderstanding thing that was going on. And in the case of Chief Mamatus, it was definitely a misunderstanding because the Keepers were actually good guys. I'm also going to be eliminating Ronin from this, considering, while yes, he was a bad guy during the events of Season 14, overall, he's really more of an ally to the ninjas, so I'm not going to be counting him. And when it comes to the redemption storyline, you may be wondering why I didn't put Harumi in there, and, well, you'll see what I'm talking about later on. Let's get into this whole thing now. For the stars of our remaining villains, I'm going to be starting off with Pythor, who is definitely going to be in the running for most evil villain. Pythor definitely did a lot of really bad stuff over the events of the show, aligning himself with multiple evil threats, mainly the other Serpentine tribes and later on the Overlord, and currently the Crystal King, which is the Overlord again, so I guess that's something. Plus, Pythor also was in the first Serpentine War, so that's something. He united all the Serpentine tribes and awoken the Great Devourer. That's definitely bad. And by far, another really bad thing that Pythor did was obviously him cannibalizing the other members of his tribe just so that way he could continue on to survive. Like, the other Anachondrite did that, and just, yeah, Pythor's definitely a really bad person. And, like, the only reason why he was even helping out the ninja in the first place during Season 4 was so that way he could try to take over Ninjago later. So, there's that. Up next, we have Chen, who is also definitely going to be in the running for most evil villain. When it comes to Chen, he also did a lot of really bad stuff. He manipulated two separate groups of elemental masters. He started two major wars trying to take over Ninjago. It's debatable as to how much he does actually care about Skylar, considering he was perfectly fine with just using her to complete the Anachondrite spell, clearly not caring about how much it was hurting her. And, like, he was even sent to the Cursed Realm after just all the wars and stuff that happened. Granted, yeah, that was because of the 7 Anachondrite generals, but again, still. Chen's definitely a really bad person, and apparently he also grave robbed the Anachondrite in order to get, like, a lot of his stuff. Again, it's definitely pretty bad. Up next, we have Klaus, who I'm not going to be putting in the running for most evil villain, mainly because when it comes to Klaus, he did do a lot of bad stuff, mainly being Chen's apprentice and knowing a lot of stuff when it comes to dark magic, as well as also being the main antagonist of the Dark Island trilogy. I'm not sure if, like, it's alright to put him in the same category as some of these other major villains. Like, he's not as evil as the rest of them. Like, yeah, he is the one who unleashes Nanakon in at least the events of Season 6, so that's something, but considering the events of Season 6 were undone, again, I'm not sure if that counts, really. So again, Klaus is not going to be in the running. Up next, we have Nanakon, who's in an equally weird position, considering, again, the events of Season 6 were undone by the end of the season, so do you count Nanakon in this list? And plus, at the same time, like, even if the events of Season 6 were not undone, I'm still not entirely sure if Nanakon really should be put in this list. Like, yeah, Nanakon did also do a lot of really bad stuff, mainly capturing each of the ninja, forcing Nia to marry him, and as well as also ripping up chunks of Ninjago's land in order to create new Ninjago. But again, I'm not sure if that stuff's like at the same level as a bunch of the other evil stuff that's been done by other villains when it comes to the show. Like, when I'm getting into villains later on, there's a lot of really terrible stuff, and right now we've already had Chen, who's started 2 massive wars. Like, I'll let you guys decide whether or not Nanakon should actually be counted, but when it comes to my list, I'm not so sure, honestly. Up next, we have Crux and the Chronics, the Time Twins, and once again, I'm not going to be putting them in the running for most evil villain, mainly because when it comes to Chronics and Crux, again, they did a lot of bad stuff, mainly stuff like creating the Vermilion Warriors, kidnapping Rei and Maya, although that was really all Crux, and plus also traveling back in time in order to try and take over Ninjago, but again, I'm not sure if that's like as evil as some of the other stuff that some of these villains have done. So again, Time Twins, I'm not putting them in the running. Up next, we have Harumi, and when it comes to her, it's not really what did she do, it's really more like what didn't she do, because Harumi's definitely in the running for most evil villain when you take a look at all the terrible stuff she did. And, like, Harumi's done a lot. She started an evil cult that worships Lord Garmadon, who's a demon. She treated Lloyd terribly all throughout the events of Seasons 8 and 9. She was responsible for multiple major attacks in Ninjago City. She took over Ninjago City and put Garmadon as the Emperor, and also, you know, killed a ton of innocent people as a result of both attacks in Ninjago City. Like, it's not entirely clear when it comes to the second attack, but when it comes to the first attack on the Palace of Secrets, we know for a fact that Hutchins died, as well as also the Emperor and Empress of Ninjago, who were her adoptive parents. So, again, Harumi's definitely in the running for most evil villain. Especially since when it comes to Harumi, she's like the only villain, or well, the first villain we ever had when it comes to the show where killing innocent people was part of her plan from the get-go. She wanted the Emperor and Empress to die so Garmadon could become the new Emperor. Again, she's definitely in the running for most evil villain. Up next, we have Iron Baron, who is also going to be in the running for most evil villain. Once again, Iron Baron's done a lot of really terrible stuff. Mainly hunting the dragons to near extinction and killing members of his own hunters in order to just get what he wants. Mainly the Dragon Blade. He killed a whole bunch of hunters and then said that it wasn't him who did it, but rather instead it was Oni who did it in order to make himself look like a good guy and he was protecting the hunters, when again he was the one who killed them. Plus at the same time, when it comes to Iron Baron, he lies and manipulates his hunters all the time just to get what he wants. That's definitely a really bad thing. So yeah, again, Iron Baron definitely in the running. Up next, we have Asphira, who I will not be putting in the running for most evil villain, because, well, Asphira didn't really do anything all that evil. Like, she manipulated Wu when he was young, and that's, like, kind of the most evil thing she did. Like, yeah, she also sent Zane to the Neverrealm, which, yeah, that's definitely pretty bad and everything. And there was also the attack in Ninjago City, but again, I don't think it's as big as some of the other stuff that some of these villains have done. So, you know, there's that. Up next, we have Vex, who is also going to be in the running for most evil villain. Once again, Vex did a lot of really terrible stuff. He turned Zane into the Ice Emperor, he took over the Neverrealm by force, and he and Zane as the Ice Emperor, they froze and essentially killed a ton of people in the Neverrealm. I mean, even actually killed most of the Yeti population, with Crag being the one exception. And what I think is easily Vex's worst thing he ever did was the attack on the Formling village, which Vex was originally from. He was attacking and killing his own people, and he clearly couldn't care less about this, and left Akita as the one and only survivor when she was just a little girl at the time. Like, that was really traumatizing for her, and just the event in general, again, it was really bad since Vex was attacking his own people. So, again, yeah, Vex is definitely in the running. Up next, we have the Skull Sorcerer, aka King Vangelis, and he is also going to be in the running for most evil villain, mainly due to the fact that when it comes to King Vangelis, he is responsible for a massive slavery operation with him forcing the monsters and geckos to mine for all the Vengestone. Why? Because he doesn't like any people who live in Shintaro but below Shintaro's mountain. Like, again, he had a perfectly good army of awakened warriors who could have just done all the mining, yet he made the monsters and geckos do it purely just because he didn't like them. So, again, yeah, he's definitely going to be put in the running for most evil villain considering just that. Finally, that just leaves us with Kalamar, and he is also going to be put in the running for most evil villain. He unleashed Wajira, and the two of them attacked Ninjago, flooding a whole bunch of it, leading to a whole bunch of destruction, and again, Ninjago being flooded, forcing Nia to merge with the ocean. And in order to actually defeat Wajira, plus when it comes to Kalamar, he clearly does not care about Benthamar in the slightest, being perfectly fine with trying to kill him on multiple occasions, and he did in fact actually kill his own dad, King Trimar, in cold blood, and again, he didn't really care that much about him. Like, you can tell that Kalamar did at the very least kind of care about his dad, but again, he was perfectly fine with killing him. So, yeah, Kalamar's definitely a bad dude. So when it comes to our remaining villains, we have Pythor, Chen, Harumi, Iron Baron, Vex, the Skull Sorcerer, and Kalamar. Which of these 7 remaining villains do I consider to be the worst of the worst and Ninjago's most irredeemable villain? If you were to ask me, I would say that Ninjago's most evil and irredeemable villain would have to go to Harumi. Harumi, I think, has done the most evil and terrible things when it comes to Ninjago. Mainly, again, the whole killing a ton of innocent people thing, plus at the same time, just how personal a lot of her just actions really were. Like, again, she killed the Emperor and Empress, who were her adopted parents, and clearly couldn't care less about either one of them. Like, she literally said during the episode Game of Masks, and I quote, "They were never my parents." Plus, at the same time, there's also the fact that she treated Lloyd terribly all throughout the events of seasons 8 and 9, doing whatever she could in order to try and turn his whole world into a living nightmare. And just, again, clearly hates him, especially considering the fact that she actually forced him to watch what he and everyone else thought was the death of the 4 original ninja and Sensei Wu. Like, seriously, Harumi is just a terrible person when you look at. And at the same time, I don't think that Harumi saving 3 people makes up for all this terrible stuff that she did. I don't think that Harumi was redeemed during Season 9. Again, Harumi's a terrible person. And again, like I said, I think that when it comes to Harumi, she is easily Ninjago's most evil and irredeemable villain. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? Who do you guys think the most evil villain in all Ninjago is? Again, tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.